the redeemed of the Lord say, let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know.
Greetings, and we talk about it, whatever it is, because what you do not know can hurt you. So let's get to the root. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Letitia R. Stuckey. And for today's episode, we're going to wrap up the 5-week series entitled From Childhood Abuse to Domestic. We talked about the bridge that is often crossed when there is an unhealthy, insecure foundation of childhood abuse and how that plays out later in adult relationships, marital relationships, friendships, etc. Just to briefly review, initially we went over the definitions of domestic violence and the different types, and there are a total of 8. The first being emotional, the second being physical, third is sexual, fourth is financial, the fifth is social, then comes verbal, number 7 is spiritual and technological. The second episode went into the 10 signs. The third episode talked about signs an adult was abused as a child. And the reason this is important is because we have friendships, we may have caregivers or individuals that we trust with our children, and during the mate selection, when we're selecting who we will allow around our children, who we want in our lives, it's important to know behavior and actions can indicate that they were abused as a child. And if there is no intervention given and successful, then that individual is likely not healthy enough for a relationship or trust to be around your children or yourself for safety reasons. Fourth episode was on the effects of domestic violence on children, not just short-term, but the long-term effects of being in a home environment where domestic violence is prevalent and happening on a regular and consistent basis. We're going to end this series with leaving an abusive relationship. And it is important to know and to note that no one should feel unsafe. You don't have to leave the abusive relationship today or do it all at once. But when the time comes, it's important for you to have a safety plan that can help you know what to do when you're ready to leave. One of the benefits is that having a safely later if you decide to leave. So basically the plan is pretty much a thought out process so that you have everything that you need when you leave, such as identification, maybe shop records, any sort of records for your children, social security cards, birth certificates, things of that nature, things that you will need to reestablish cards, birth certificates, things of that nature, things that you will need to reestablish yourself and your children in school, your job, or whatever situation. Those are things that you will need. And if you leave because there's an explosion or there's been a fight, you're likely not thinking about getting those things. You may leave your identification cards, you may leave your keys. About getting those things, you may leave your identification cards, you may leave your keys. There's just things that you have to consider and process before up and leaving, if at all possible. Now, there are times when there's a physical altercation or there's imminent threat of death or danger where you need to get out of Dodge no matter what, regardless, and we'll sort through or figure out, because all of those documents honestly are replaceable. You can likely go to the school and get copies of this documentation. You can reapply for a social security card. You can reapply for a duplicate identification or driver's license, as well as a birth certificate. You can get those as well. So it asks a question: what are some things to consider as that leaving an abusive relationship can seem very overwhelming? Women often leave several times before finally deciding to end the relationship. And statistically, I've heard it put that it's an average of 7 times that a woman leaves and comes back before she actually ends the relationship and leaves for good. Now, it's only by the grace and mercy to go and come back, because typically once a controlling individual has lost control and you've left once or you've even threatened to leave, leave, they feel that they have to sort of up the ante or threaten you or do something to let you know that leaving is not going to be an option. The door is not going to be open for you to come and go as you please. It's not going to be an option. The door is not going to be open for you to come and go as you please. Honestly, in those 7 times coming and going, like having a revolving door, that individual may take your life or seriously injure you to the point where leaving or going is challenging or impossible. So it's also important to know it's difficult to leave an abusive partner. You may have doubts or fears or just feel overwhelmed at the thought of leaving. And some individuals, if you're like me, I had never lived independently. I lived on college campus, but to have my own apartment and have my own furniture and things that belong to me, that was a new experience for round zero, and you don't have anything. You're basically starting over. That's normal to feel doubts, to feel fear, to feel overwhelmed. The fear of the unknown is definitely normal. Consider the following as you make your decision. There are 7 bullet points that we would like for you to consider. Number 1, domestic violence often starts as emotional abuse and becomes physical later. You can check out the second of this series entitled From Childhood Abuse to Domestic Violence to learn all about emotional abuse, its effects, and what that would look like in reality, as well as learn more about physical abuse. It's important to ask for physical abuse. It's important to ask for help as soon as possible. Number 2 is that your partner may try to make you think the violence is your fault. Play the blame game. If you would not have, then I would not have. Just know that it's not your fault. You can't make someone hurt or mistreat you. Your partner is responsible for abuse, are never the victim's fault. Number 3, abuse is not normal or okay. Once again, abuse is not normal or okay. For a third time, abuse is not normal or okay. You may think that abuse is a sign that your partner loves you, but it's not. You may think that abuse is a sign that your partner loves you, but it's not. Because they're jealous over you, or they check your phone, or they want to know where you are and when you're coming back. You might think, that's sweet. Oh, he misses me, or she misses me, or whatever. They're very concerned about my well-being, but that is typically not the case at all. It's a form of control. But that is typically not the case at all. It's a form of control. If they continue to ask you, how long are you going to be gone, or what are you going to do, and things of this nature, they may even be able to talk you out of going altogether, because it's just less stressful to just stay home or stay with them and not have to explain where you're going, what time you're coming back, why you're going, and this, that, and the other. Also, you may think that romantic love is passionate and that physical abuse is a sign of passion. Well, it's not. So somebody getting upset, let's say you're trying to leave and they grab you by both shoulders and want to talk to you or let you know that they don't want you to leave at this moment, and maybe saying I love you or whatever, or they really want the sign of romantic love or passion. A healthy relationship is one in which you feel safe and which there is no physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal abuse. Once again, refer back to the second episode for definitions and examples of those forms of abuse. Number 4, abuse. It can happen to anyone regardless of whether they're college educated, regardless of the neighborhood they live in, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexual orientation, or whether they're married, dating, or single. It does not discriminate. It's no respecter of persons. Number 5, your partner may be very good to respecter of persons. Number 5, your partner may be very good to you at times. Most abusers have a pattern of abuse followed by making you feel special and loved, and it's most likely that the abuse will happen again. Abuse usually gets worse over time, not better. Abuse usually gets worse over time. Not better. Learn about how to get help, even if your partner promises to stop the abuse. And as they were saying, that there's a makeup period. So the 3 most common cycles of abuse is that it starts with the honeymoon period. That's when they're nice, and this is the beginning. They're nice, and this is the beginning where you're dating, and they're perfect, and they're opening doors, and they're so considerate, they're so sensitive, they're so present. They want to hear what you have to say. They appear to be interested, and they're just like your dream guy, girl, or individual. Then there's stress buildup or the tension building phase. So once you're with someone, whether you're dating or in a friendship or a relationship with them, over time, things are going to happen at work or at home or with other relationships, with family, outside influences and entities that's going to cause stress. They could have a stressful job, or their boss is on them, or they're having car trouble, or they're not able to make their rent payments or certain bills that they're obligated to pay on time. And the consequences associated to that could become stressed and overwhelmed. So the tension is building. And the third phase is the explosion. So and this cycle continues. So the explosion is typically when and this cycle continues. So the explosion is typically when they're abusive, they're verbally or physically or sexually abusive. There's just so many. Like I said, there's 8 total types of abuse, if not more, and they will interchangeably utilize those against you. So just know that that is a cycle. Once they explode, they're going to go to therapy. They don't know why they did that. They love you and the family so much, and they're never going to find anyone else like you. You're the best thing since sliced bread. They may even go so far as to start popping up at your job with gifts of flowers or balloons or just, a bag or something that's your favorite. Outside looking that you work with may just think, wow, I wish my husband or wife would do this for me. I wish someone would show up with just unexpected flowers and things of this nature. And they assume that everything is healthy and everything is okay because this person seems to be doing the right things and they're considerate and thoughtful. The truth of the matter is there's been an explosion and this is the honeymoon period. So what you're thinking is normal and just so loving and endearing acts of service, giving gifts is really because they've exploded. And a lot of times they thrive on that because they want people to think, like the Sprite commercial says, image is everything. They have this image that they want to portray where everything is okay. Image is everything. They have this image that they want to portray where everything is okay. Everything is perfect. We dress alike. We take pictures. We look really good on the outside. We're very conscious or cognizant of our physical appearance. We match and we look presentable. We take care of ourselves, smell good, look good, appear to feel good, take care of ourselves, smell good, look good, appear to feel good or whatever, but it's just a mask and it's a facade. That image to them is very important, no matter how dysfunctional, unhealthy, or untrue it is. Number 6 says you cannot help or fix an abusive partner. Once again, you cannot help or fix. Son, one for the Holy Spirit. You cannot help or fix an abusive partner. First of all, it's not your responsibility to convince a violent or abusive partner to get help. Your responsibility is your own safety and the safety of any children in the household. Some abusers say they will get help. Some abusers say they will get help as a way to make it up to you after violence. But getting help does not always mean the violence will stop. As it pertains to that, to elaborate, I know of a time when the person in the relationship was actually the person to keep the other individual that was in the relationship with them calm. And they would try to mull things over if they had road rage or if they got upset with a friend or they felt slighted or mistreated by someone. That person would try to help them to calm down, try to help them to think of alternate ways. Well, maybe they were having a bad day or maybe they didn't mean it that way. Emotions, who is typically very impulsive and angry and irritable. But when you're in a relationship with an individual like that, no one's there when they're raging at you. No one's there to calm them down when they're upset with you because you're the one that always tries to regulate their emotions. So what happens when you're the object of their anger? There's no say because they're mad at you. So it's a love-hate relationship. One minute they love you, then they hate you. From that extreme, there's no middle ground. I dislike you right now, or I dislike what you did, but I still care for you. I still love you. I'm still going to treat you with respect. There's none of that. It's either I love you or I hate you. Either you're my friend or foe. Either you're my enemy or I hate you. Either you're my friend or foe. Either you're my enemy or you're my ally. There's no gray area or in between. And the 7th bullet point is intimate partner violence is linked to serious physical and emotional problems. The longer it continues, the more damage it can cause. And that and long-term effects for children who are raised in that environment, the longer you stay in it, the more difficult it is typically to get out of your system. It's almost like a fish. If you put a freshwater fish into polluted waters or salt waters, that's an environment that they're not used to, but they have one of two options. Either they're gonna die or they're gonna adapt. And for the most part, humans, we adapt to dysfunctional and unhealthy situations because that's our environment and that's the option. You're not going to die, so you're going to have to adapt. The things that are abnormal, you're going to have to normalize them if you're going to survive them. And mentally it does a lot with your mind, and it creates strongholds and even a victim mentality, poverty mentality, a mentality that I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. And individuals who feel that way tend to settle and stay in those relationships because they feel like that's the best they're going to get. They feel that there's no time. The victimizer or the predator has skillfully fed them these nuggets that nobody's going to want you, that you're big, you're black, you're ugly, you got 2 kids, and you're not educated, you don't have any skills, you've never worked outside the home or whatever. So they help to feed that fire and that insecurity as well. Also, if you have children, fire in that insecurity as well. Also, if you have children, consider their safety, please. Whether you're willing to allow your partner to visit them if you decide to leave the relationship. They will use the kids to send messages. They will use the kids to try to manipulate their emotions and emotionally abuse them, to have them child or to have the child angry at you or acting out because you guys aren't together. And maybe they have told them, well, mommy left me, or I don't know why, or mommy really hurt me, or something of that nature. And they'll begin to manipulate and try to control the child as well, which causes more damage because even though they may be out of that unhealthy environment, they're still around the unhealthy person who likely made the environment or largely contributed to the environment being unhealthy. So them still having influence can be counterproductive to your healing process as well as your child's healing process. It's also important to know that many abusers get even more violent after the victims leave. And honestly, when you leave is the most dangerous time because that individual has literally lost control. If they're used to controlling, used to manipulating, used to telling you what to eat, what to drink, what to wear, if you can go somewhere, how to wear your hair, family, if they're used to controlling every element of your life without you, they don't have control. So typically this is when you're at risk of imminent danger and or death. And this is when abusers sometimes commit suicide after they've committed the homicide. So they'll shoot you and then well. So it's definitely a time where you don't want to just be emotional and say, well, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. And then you want to reconsider and try to go back because the fact that you left, especially if you've distorted the image, because family, friends, loved ones, community, co-workers, people you go to school with, people at the children's school or whatever, workers, people you go to school with, people at the children's school or whatever, they may know that you guys are separated or have broken up. So now that image that is so important, that mask that you guys have become accustomed to wearing, is now broken. It has a dent in it. It's not perfect anymore. The abuser may not know how to deal with that and may just anymore. The abuser may not know how to deal with that and may just decide to hurt you extremely severely, or they may just decide, you know what, I'm not going through this and I'm going to go ahead and take her out and take myself out as well, or just take her out. So it's definitely a very dangerous time, and I'm not saying that to dissuade you from leaving, because I myself was faced with that decision and I chose to leave. When fear of the unknown is greatly reduced and fear of the known outweighs fear of the unknown, you'll make a move and you'll leave. Do what's best for you and your child, or you and your children, or just you at that point if you do not have children together. That's why read on with others in your life can help keep you safe after you leave. So planning it out, having what you need, having resources, having money, having a place to go where this individual doesn't know where you are and can't track you and things of that nature can help you to safely leave and be okay. The next question is, who can I leave and be okay? The next question is, who can I talk to about leaving a relationship? Many people can help you think about your options to leave an abusive relationship safely. It might be unsafe if an abusive partner finds out you're thinking about leaving. So try to talk only to people who will not tell the real life story where a woman has the testimony that she was leaving her husband and they had kids, I believe, and she confided in I'm not sure if it was an in-law or somebody on her side of the family, and they told the abuser that she was leaving, and he almost killed her because he got wind of what was happening. It says for you because some people, as unhealthy and dysfunctional as the relationship is, it may even be the person that you confide in and tell about the abuse. Well, he did this to me. He pulled my hair. He blacked my eye. She did this to me. She scratched me. She pulled out a gun. She did whatever to me. And they're the very ones that's gonna tell the abuser, because some people are just messed up in the head themselves, and they're like, well, they've got a family, and what about the children? I really want them to work it out if at all possible, and they minimize the abuse that you're going through because, number one, they're not going through it themselves, or if they are going through it, a certain level of it, then if you leave, then where does that leave them? Then now you both can't share your scars or your wounds or your battle stories or stories of survival, because you've made a conscious decision to leave and they're still in their marriage or still in their mess or still in that relationship or that abusive situation. And as the saying goes, misery loves company. So who you talk to about this situation. So they give us examples of individuals that we can confide in or should be able to. And there are 5 of them. Your doctor or your nurse. Basically, they advise you to visit the doctor or the nurse without your partner. If your partner insists on going with you, try to write a note to the office. If your partner insists on going with you, try to write a note to the office staff saying that you want to see the doctor or nurse alone, or tell your partner you need privacy to speak about woman's health issues, or that you're too embarrassed to talk about it in front of them, or tell your partner where others can hear you that in the exam room. So they're saying that to tell them where others can hear them, because maybe somebody will back you up or get wind that there is something going on and become more observant of the situation. The second individual or individuals that you should be able to tell is, I guess, for children, a teacher, a counselor, like a guidance counselor, or your principal at your children's school. An adult at your children's school can help connect you with shelters and other safe places in your community. Teachers and others at the child's school want to help the families of the children that they teach. Usually, the third place or individuals that you should be able to tell about the abusive situation, it says, if you work outside the home, the human resources or HR department at your workplace may be able to connect you with an employee assistance program or EAP or other resources in your community. So employee assistance program, things of that nature, because as an employee, they want you to continue to work there. They want you to be and feel safe. So they may be able to assist you financially or just link you to other resources in the community. Number 4 is family or friends. You should be able to confide in family or friends, but be prayerful about whom you confide in. If more than one family member or friend can help, then it might be a good idea to get a few people to work together to help you, because you don't want there to be a time where you're calling someone in a state of emergency or panic and they're unavailable for some reason and you don't have an alternate. I've had situations like that, like there's an emergency with a child or something, and let's say you rode in to the hospital with the ambulance. Now you don't have your car or transportation home, so you're trying to call someone. Nobody's picking up, So in some cases, the more you're able to get your needs met or to get a hold of someone that can help you and knows about the situation. The last bullet point is that they're giving you a free 1-800 telephone hotline. You can talk to a trained advocate at the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's free. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without giving your name or your address. The counselors can help you talk through the steps of leaving an abusive relationship. You can call the hotline as many times as you need. You can call it all day, every day, any time of the day. If you get a free moment, or if the individual is at work or indisposed and not in the home, sometimes people feel more comfortable talking to someone who they consider a stranger or someone who can't see them. It may be more comforting for them. Some individuals fear judgment and backlash. So they don't want to tell anybody at church, or they don't want to tell anybody in their family, or they don't want to tell anybody at church, or they don't want to tell anybody in their family, or they don't want to tell anyone that they feel like could throw it up in their face or could feel some sort of way or change the way they react or respond to them. So that can be a thing. Also, I used to volunteer at family services on the sexual assault, and to just have the comfort of someone else on the line that can talk to you. And a lot of times the volunteers themselves have experienced some level of what the individuals who call the crisis line will experience or have experienced. It's honestly comforting to hear from someone who kind of gets it. They understand. You don't have to help you tell your story or tell you it may be common for you to feel depressed or for you to feel anxiety or for you to feel fear, or just normalize things and say, that's normal. When I went through my situation, that's exactly how I felt. And this is how I was able to address it. And that was an issue then, but it's not currently an issue. Just to give someone hope for their future and let them know that, right now, it seems impossible. It seems like it's you against the world, but you can get free, break free, and stay free and live a happy, healthy, thriving life for you and your kids or for yourself. The next question is, how can I plan to leave and keep myself safe which is major and very important. So even if you don't leave right away, creating a safety plan can help you know what to do if your partner abuses you again. It can help you be more independent when you leave. So your safety plan will help you be prepared in these ways. There are 10 here. The first is to identify a safe place, friends and families, and safe places to go. So to know where your place of refuge is, where you can go and be safe and don't have to worry about being in danger for you and your kid. Create a code word to use with family, friends, or neighbors to let them know you are in danger without the abuser finding out. So it could be a code word that if you're on the phone with someone and there's something about to happen, or you can sense it usually, and you would say that code word, they would know to call police, or I don't even want to say get so out of hand so quickly, to call the police or summon someone, something. If you have a neighbor that's involved, maybe the neighbor can create a diversion or a distraction. And also as it pertains to code words, they say have code words with your children. So for example, if you get into a fight, mommy and daddy or whoever, if we get into an argument and it begins to get serious or be loud or whatever, then you can say a code word and the kids will know to run to the neighbors or to call the police or to do something to summons help before things go too far. And typically the abuser is going to be so focused on you if they're angry and they're lashing out, that they're not going to be concerned or worried about where the children go so they can get away and get help for you and for them. If possible, agree on a secret location where you can be picked up. So once you use the code word, there may be a plan that, okay, I'm going to meet you at the corner or at the stop sign in 30 minutes. Come pick me up. Me and the kids will be ready or waiting or something like that beforehand in the case that something might happen. The second way a safety plan prepares you, encouraging you to keep an alternate cell phone nearby. Try not to call for help on your home phone or a shared cell phone, because somebody could call back. Let's say if you hang up abruptly or something like that with 911, they could call you back on the if you hang up abruptly or something like that with 911, they could call you back on the shared cell phone or your landline or something of that nature. Your partner might be able to trace the numbers if they have access to it. And if you don't have a cell phone, you can get a prepaid cell phone that your partner does not know about that you can use in the event of an attack or an emergency. Your phone is inoperable. It's not even turned on or activated. You can still summons help. And the reason being is because a lot of individuals who were in domestically violent situations and relationships and households have lost their lives simply because they didn't have a phone. They couldn't call for help. They couldn't summons any assistance. So they lost their lives. There was even shelters, or you would give it to someplace like family services, and they would either refurbish them or fix them and then deliver them and put them in the hands of individuals that were staying at shelters or that had run-ins with domestic violence. Because once again, if you were out and you see your abuser and you don't have a phone, then you can't call for help. But if you do have a phone and you're able to you have a greater increased chance of living through the situation, summoning help, and being able to move forward with your life. The third benefit of having a safety plan, they're encouraging you to memorize the phone numbers of friends, family members, or shelters. So if your partner were to take your phone, you can still be able to contact people because you know their number by heart. Or if you have an alternate cell phone, but once again, you have to kind of cover all bases. What if they were to find the alternate cell phone? So memorizing them would help you be able to call from any number. Even if you had to run to neighbors or tell it to your children or write it down or something, then you would be able to get or advantage for having a safety plan and being prepared is making a list of things to take if you leave quickly. It's important, like your identity documents and your money should probably be a top priority. See the safety packing list for a detailed list of items that you might need to pack or get together. Keep them in a safe place. Where your detailed list of items that you might need to pack or get together. Keep them in a safe place where your partner will not find them. If you are in immediate danger, leave without them. So if you have done all of this safety planning and then your partner stumbles upon all of this stuff and they see it in plastic bags or wherever you have hidden it, the jig is up. They see that you're slowly packing stuff away, then it might escalate. And like I said, they might become so furious that they just want to take you out of this world because you want to leave them, which you have free will to leave. It's completely okay. You have that decision to make. But in their eyes, you're property. You're my wife. These are my children. You're my girlfriend. You're my girlfriend. You're my boyfriend. You're this, you're that, as opposed to a person or individual or human. You're property in their eyes a lot of times. If you're in imminent danger, leave without them. And then if you can hide an extra set of car keys so that you can leave if your partner takes the ones that you usually have away, you will still have access to the car. So while they're sleeping or at work or indisposed for some reason, then you'll have keys to the car to go ahead and make your way of escape. I mean, if you just think about this, them taking your cell phone or tracking your cell phone, tracking what you're doing or when you're doing it, or how you're doing it, taking the control over someone, which is demonic, and that's not God's will, nor is it God's best for our lives. Number 6 is ask your doctor how to get extra medicine or glasses, hearing aids, or other medically necessary items for you and your children, especially if you plan on leaving. You don't want your children to have medication and they don't have access to it, because it's almost like being preventative. If you already have extras of this stuff, then you won't have to be in a emergency crisis situation trying to get in contact with the pharmacy or get glasses or get, things that are medically necessary to meet you and your children's needs. You'll already have them. Number 7 of 10 is contact your local family court or domestic violence court if your state has one for information about getting a restraining order. And another name is a 50B. If you need legal help but don't have much money, your local domestic violence agency may be able to help you find a lawyer who will work for free or on a sliding scale fee based on what you can pay. And here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that would be legal aid that you would call, and they would likely have an attorney represent you pro bono, depending on your economic situation, because like they said, domestic violence doesn't individuals low income who don't have much money. It could be for individuals that are extremely rich and have resources and things of that nature, are financially set. Number 8 is protect your online security. As you collect information and prepare, use a computer at the public library to download information or use a friend's computer to track your planning otherwise. And there's a real life experience of someone that I am close to and know. Their husband at the time checked the computer history and saw that they were researching and actually showed up at the apartment where they were going to view the apartment and do the application process, pretty much positioning themselves to transition out. But because they did not wipe the history clean, then they were able to show up and they weren't supposed to know where they were. So it's important, like I said, you have to plan. If you're able to, it's important so that you're not left out there and not knowing what to do in a state of crisis, because you haven't thought about half of what you will need, half of what you'll go through when you leave. Number 9 is try to take with you any evidence of abuse or violence if you leave your partner. This might include threatening notes from your partner. It might from your partner. It might be copies of the police or medical reports if you've had to go to the doctor because of injuries sustained by your abuser. It might include pictures of your injuries or damage to your property. And even as it pertains to pictures, there was another situation that I came across where a woman who had been severely beaten by her husband at the time sent pictures, and they kind of didn't really know what to do with them, but the reason that she sent them was evidence. So if he were to come across her phone or were to come across it and destroy it, which most abusers do because they know what they're doing is not right, so they don't have to take responsibility or suffer the consequences of their actions. So they'll try to destroy stuff like the threatening letters and things of that nature. If you have them and you know where they are, keep them in a secure place where when you leave, in order to successfully be approved for a restraining order or a 50B, the more evidence be approved for a restraining order or a 50B, the more evidence, the better. The quicker the process will go, because it won't just be he said, she said, or she said, she said, or he said, he said. Your word against someone else's, you have proof to present to the judge. So number 10, the final bullet point says, keep copies of all paper and electronic. Important too, because if they destroy the computer for whatever reason, then you have it on a thumb drive. If you have to email stuff to yourself, take a picture, screenshot of it, and email it to yourself. You want to have as many copies as possible. So in addition to having a hard copy, you can have an email copy. So even if you're not there with them, you can access your email from any electronic device. From the police station if you need to, if they allow you to access it. So it's important. The example I gave, send photos and your evidence to friends. Make sure it's individuals that you can trust, because you don't want to send it to somebody and they give them the heads up or say, well, why did you do that? Or I saw the pictures, or things of that nature, and try to approach the abuser. Once again, you have to be careful and remain prayerful about who you share and send and exchange this information with. So advocates at the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 800-799-SAFE. And the numbers for SAFE is 7233. The National 799-SAFE or 7233. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. And they can help you develop a safety plan. And the next question is, what do I need to include in my safety packing list? And some of the things that you will actually pretty much been gone over. Any documentations like your social security cards for you and the children or any applicable individual, birth certificates, identification, driver's license. If you have like cards that are linked to your banking account or banking information, if you have things that the children need to account or banking information, if you have things that the children need to get them enrolled in school or transcripts or things of that nature, anything that you may need for your job to continue working. Let's say if you work from home or if you have copies of important things at home, all of those sort of things, toiletries, extra pairs of clothes, medications, things of that nature, their glasses or contacts, whatever they may use. If you have hearing aids or things of that nature, anything that's medically necessary, their prescriptions, additional prescriptions, even the empty bottle, or just write down the pharmacy name or the RX number. So if the bottle is empty and you need to get refills or something, you can call from any phone, and with the RX number, you can apply for a refill. And once again, your evidence of the abuse. So those are some things that you would want to pack and have together in preparation for you leaving an abusive relationship. This series hits close to home and is an abusive relationship. This series hits close to home and is close to my heart because I've lived it. But I am also living proof that there is life after it. You can live, you can thrive, and you can be who and what God called you to be. And a lot of times the enemy will send you distractions and unhealthy relationships and friendships that are designed to bring about your complete and total demise. If not physically kill you, because your abuser is that controlling or that insecure, that jealous, or that possessive. It's just really demonic, 100%. The person, even God gives us free will. What makes you feel that you have the right to make somebody do something, to tell them what they can and can't do, to tell them what they can and can't wear, to either support or not support something that they want to do or something that they've been called to do? My prayers are definitely with anyone who has experienced this, whether it's in between or whether you just lived in a household where it was prevalent and you saw it. It can really be complicated, challenging to navigate through, but there is hope against all odds. Continue to find people to confide in and tell, because you're gonna find that one person, if it's only one person that will help you. So don't give up, be hopeful, be careful, stay prayerful, and be strategic if at all possible, when and if necessary, and keep yourself and your children safe. So until next time, it's important for you to remember God, and God alone has the final say so about where you have been, where you are now, and where you are going. You are simply in the process of becoming who God created, ordained, purposed, and destined you to be. Until next time, miracles and blessings to you today and every day.
Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, because the world needs to know. Let the redeemed of the, because the world needs to know.